This pandemic is coming into a second year and it's very challenging time for everyone. The people are getting with each day more depressed and lonely. So the question appears, why loneliness and when people don't feel lonely? Usually people feel happy and not lonely when they're connected with other people. Because of that, loneliness is linked to lack of social interactions. And it's assumed that social connections, relationships, are source and reason for feeling good. And indeed, in a certain constellations with a certain people, one can feel satisfied, loved, successful, smart, beautiful. This is also a reason why some relationships are established, because one feels very good about itself. So this feeling is something what people want to hold on. They want to have it forever. And as soon as they feel unhappy or insecure, if they don't feel loved, if they don't feel at home, they start again searching for connections, for relationships, in order to get this feeling back. But actually, the connections are not the reason for feeling good, for feeling at home. They're just triggering some emotions which are able to feed ego. So some people have ego which hungers for love, some other for accomplishment, for success, respect, for security, etc. So whatever ego needs to feed on, it tries to find in sources outside. For example, when one feels unhappy and love is what ego is hungry for, the one starts searching for love affairs, for relationships, or if in relationships, start asking for approves from the partner, family, or friends, proofs of love, mostly in form of attention. On another side, if ego is hungry for respect that is manifested through intellectual recognition, it will start searching for informations that can be memorized and displayed in a right place in order to gain that respect. Because for this person, for this particular ego, this brings that feeling at home. The same holds also for hunger related to wealth, why some status symbols or career titles are collected and displayed, because this brings feeling at home. So at the end, people keep running after more and more food for their hungry ego. But such running satisfies needs only for a short time. And like any other substance, it creates certain addiction very quickly. One starts consuming more and more of these tangible and not tangible things. And threshold for realizing that satisfaction is getting higher each time. So it gets more and more difficult to achieve it, and also much harder to hold once this is achieved. So one is kept in this endless circle of needing more for feeling good about oneself or feeling good in own skin. One runs after that first experience, the first moment when excitement and feeling pleasant and feeling at home is experienced. But this initial feeling that one was feeling at the first love, the first success, the first recognition is never going to come back unless beginner's mind is kept. That leads to unsatisfactory life and suffering. So that inner hole or abyss that is building in because of that is being less and less likely to be filled in, regardless what is put inside and how intense. All of this because people misunderstand why they feel at home in the first place. We feel at home basically only then when we are connected with ourselves. The only home, the true home that we have, is within us. And the only relationship that matters is relationship with ourselves. So when this relationship with ourselves is broken, one stops feeling at home. One feels disconnected with everything and start feeling lonely. So when that gate that leads to deeper self is closed, one knocks on all other doors, and all these other doors seems to be welcoming and appealing. Such doors open up to all possible realms, to realm of wealth, power, success, respect, love, family, children, sex, food, to all, to what our passion and desire are driving us. But soon we can recognize that we are locked behind that door in one place in which fire in furnace is slowly extinguished, and we have to maintain it with the new fuel, which is in essence this desire that already lured us in this place. As long as this fire is burning, we feel warm, we feel at home, but without it, the darkness and cold start prevailing, and feeling of being in one safe place disappears, and we start feeling alone, lonely. Lonely behind the door in which our desire locked us in. The only way not to feel lonely is to enter the inner space, this inner home, our own home. And to get there, one needs to practice. Simple reading and talking and leading philosophical discussions about it doesn't bring us there. The theory is a realm of intellect, and it is intellect that is bringing us away from ourselves. People can experience loneliness and disconnection from that feeling of being self, being safe, being in own skin, also when surrounded by many people, when in relationship, when filled with information, even when surrounded by love and devotion, or in midst of own castle. Indeed, many people are living lonely together. Believing that loneliness will disappear if we connect with others in all sorts of relationships drive us to build social media accounts, groups, to go on parties, to meet others. All this is actually driven by the same wish to escape being lonely. During these pandemics, that got very obvious. Because of lockdowns and restrictions, these connections, which had been necessary for most people to feel less lonely, had been missing. Digitalization supports social media in efforts to connect and resolve loneliness, but it causes at times even stronger emotional crisis and certainly does not solve the problem of feeling disconnected. People still feel unhappy and uneasy, still feel lonely and depressed. Messages, mails, calls, which are not responded straight away, are triggering emotional crises and conflicts. Number of connections on Instagram or Twitter or frequency of calls become a measure of one's success, loveliness, and importance. This was also symptomatic before pandemic, but now it is manifested more strongly. So when one does not connect with own inner self in loving and compassionate way, also connections with others are troubled. The connections with governments, with society, with the friends, family, partners, children, parents. Because no amount of relationship with other people or connections via social media can bridge to other side and connect you with yourself. And when it comes to feeling of being at home, feeling fulfilled, feeling well in own skin, feeling complete and not lonely, the only connection that really matters is connection with yourself, your deeper self. When we sit in Zazen, such a connection takes place, but people who have experience with sitting in Zazen know how difficult it was at the beginning, even to realize that connection is not there, that we are disconnected to our own core. It takes time until practice starts bringing results on a way, and we can realize the degree to which we are unaware, unconscious about our actions and thoughts only after longer practice. We do understand intellectually when someone tells us to be attentive, to be aware, to be present, but most of the time we are just walking without any awareness. We let our mind move our body automatically. So in principle, people are most of their lives in a way like a zombies, only with the desire to consume other things and not human meat. People live in their heads, and culture in which we live nowadays cultivates that way of life without any wish to change it, or better, to bring it into original state. As example, when we walk in a crowded New York or London or any other metropole, doesn't matter, it is certain that someone will bump into us or that we are bumping into someone else. Walking with that tunnel view can't bring any other result except by chance. And here comes the difference in approaches. Modern New Age coaching will teach people nowadays how to insist on more respect from others, how to claim their own walking line and space in a sidewalk, how to expect people to apologize when bump into them, how to prevent others of watching them suspiciously or angry. And maybe they're going to be as well instructed how to apologize, but more like act of the good manners. So all of these are rules set by people for people who live in crowded communities and who are ruled by ego. Intellect tries on this way to achieve some more harmony in collective. On another side, when one is connected to one core, to oneself, what is the target of Zen practice, one becomes present and awake in act of walking. Therefore, it's easy to prevent bumping into other people due to own mindlessness. Of course, one may not be able to prevent others to bump into them due to their own mindlessness. But in this case, this situation does not turn into drama because the illusion of separation disappears. Act of sitting in zazen is, in a way, act of cutting illusion that allow us to connect with ourselves again. We start seeing what is going on within our own space, in our own body and mind. Emotions, thoughts, breath, perceptions, inner movements, pain, impressions, tensions, all starts being seen and recognized. All of it had been there also before, but it was just happening without our awareness. And we just felt comfortable or uncomfortable. And all this energy of these bodily experiences or mental or emotional experiences was collecting and accumulating within us without our control, similar to water of the river that collects behind the dam. And this dam is built by our mind, which keeps us busy watching its own show and make us believe that this is our actual life. So when we reconnect to our own inner self, it is like breaking down this dam. Of course, as a consequence, when dam is broken, this stain energy can flash everything like a flood. And when flood is settled, we can finally have an open and free space through which energy can move unrestricted. With this, connection with our core is brought again, but also the connection with everything else. And even more, after a while, one realized that there is nothing such inside and outside, because all flows freely, like when river enters the ocean. And in this point of entering the ocean, it is hard to say which specific drop belongs to river and which to ocean. During a practice, one has to be patient. And this patience is also what Zazen practice is teaching you. And is important because when one returns home, one still has to cope with the mess inside, with all that accumulated energy that was growing without our control. It is like waking up to realize that our home turned over years in the messy home, full of newspapers, empty pizza boxes, photos all around the floor. So we have to accept that we may have inside mess that we don't like to have. After the fairy tale in our mind, reality may be quite discouraging. Zazen teaches you not to run away from it and to sit present, steady, without movements. To accept all what you see and what approaches you. To use your breath to conquer pain and fear. This is why teacher may instruct a student not to move, because with each movement, one is falling back, running away into illusionary security of own mind. One has to face all what is inside, regardless if that is pleasant or not, even if that is fear, loneliness, or unhappiness. When we face it and acknowledge its presence, consciously, without ego, without judgment, without criticism, all of these feelings dissolve like a small condiment. When during a praxis one starts turning toward the inside and reaches this inner space and sees this messiness inside, one starts rearranging, cleaning up, opening windows for a new fresh air. And during that, one does not say, "Oh, poor me, I am so lonely, scared, or so angry, unhappy," because this is the ego's voice. The ego tries to make you feel self-pity and to create drama. Instead of that, one has to learn to say just simply, "Oh, look, here it is, loneliness in me." Because you are not loneliness. You are not depression. You're not fear. You're not anything like that. All this is just impermanent formation that, like a wave, come and go. And of course, after strong wind, waves may be powerful and destructive, and summer breeze may create small and short-living waves. And this is the same with some emotions that we have inside. However, although this observation of our emotions should not be colored by self-pity, they should be accompanied by compassion. And this compassionate observation is going to make that messy place that is within you something what feels at home. It makes you love this what it is and makes you clean up with care and patience, makes you love yourself. And this self-love makes loneliness disappear. This is not love created by ego or turned toward ego. Self-love has different nature and is much deeper. It makes you open up and this way connect not only with yourself, but allow others to reach toward you. You become like a radio that can turn on and receive all frequencies, everything as wished. This way, you carry your home with you, and yet at the same time, you're connected with everything. This is the way how we connect also within society and how we can start healing our relationship, families, friendships, world. Presently, world is made of people who are in that state of disconnectedness, state which does not feel at home. Instead of returning home, they plan making home on Mars, not realizing that this low level of consciousness, egocentriness, and conditioning will travel with us wherever we go and regardless how far that is. If we cannot befriend ourselves with our own core and hold to the ego instead, how can we expect to befriend with anyone else, with any other form on earth or anywhere else? We don't allow even God to have other face than our own. If, for example, a huge amoeba would approach us claiming to be a god, we would use all nuclear weapons to kill it out of disbelief and fear. We don't even accept the way how we look outside. And this, what is inside, make us doubt in its existence because it can't be grasped by our intellectual mind. We have isolated ourselves from the essence, and without essence, we are standing on a shaking ground. We don't have stability and cannot feel safe. Such place can't neither feel at home nor can offer space for company. So loneliness is only what remains. And even though Zazen should not be practiced with the goal of reaching that home, Each sitting in silence, each breath in and out are like a steps that bring us there. And more present we become with each step we make, less lonely we will feel.